It is Saturday, December the 22nd, around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm on my way home for the holidays to Wilmington, North Carolina. Usually I like to stop at a state park or some other unit that I haven't done before and do a short hike, exploring the eastern North Carolina portion of the state that I rarely hike. So today I drove south from Chapel Hill, and I'm in the middle of Southern Pines, North Carolina, checking out a North Carolina State Park unit called Weymouth or Weymouth Woods Sandhills Nature Preserve. This is the Boyd Tract, which is one of 3 tracts in this preserve. You can see on the map right here, this is the smallest one, and the main ones with most trails is just south of here. But this one's special because it has the 2 oldest and largest longleaf pines, maybe in the world. Yep, that's what it says. It says the oldest is 459 years old, and that was in 2007, so it's even older than that. And they also have the second oldest one here. So this is a very short hike. They provide a good map at the trailhead. Usually you'll find good paper maps at all the North Carolina state parks. And there's a lot of equestrian trails, so I'm just going to do the short hiking loop to see the largest pine trees. And then after that, maybe I'll go to the main unit where the visitor center is. Honestly, I'm not sure how to tell what are the oldest longleaf pines. These are clearly new saplings and ones that are probably under 50 years old. But on the map, I've already clearly passed by what's labeled as the second oldest longleaf pine in the world, and there was no sign to tell what is what. I've passed by a lot of trees like this that are probably about 60, 80 feet high. They're impressive. The trunks are slightly wider than what you would normally see in eastern North Carolina, but not too much so. It does look like that up there, some in the distance, are substantially bigger, and I'm supposed to be coming up on the oldest in the world very soon on the right of the trail, and really hope there's a sign, because clearly the trunks of these are not massively bigger than ones that are 100 years old. These 2 right here are also impressive. Not as tall, but they're a little bit wider as you go up. The ones I was just at are this cluster over here. But I'm back on a horse trail now, so I've basically bushwhacked through the entire area where the oldest one should have been located. So can't really tell. Some of them are marked with white paint on the bottom, but not just one, like multiple of them. So that's not a good indicator of what's what. I'll just keep exploring. This is a very small tract. The loop trail is a mile total, so it's not like I can get lost wandering through here. There's a possibility this might be actually the oldest one. It's close to the trail, and there's more of a clearing around it with a clear manway that comes off of the main trail, allowing easy access. It is marked, and the third option with the marking could be that it's being treated for something. But this is also about 3.5, 4 feet in diameter. But the difference with this one is it's a lot more stunted growth. Like the limbs up top are much larger side limbs than a lot of younger trees, and they're pretty thick all the way up, even though this is probably about 50, 60 feet high. But it could just mean the top was snapped off a while ago. It's just a much more uniform, thick trunk all the way up, and I'm in the vicinity of the map where it says this tree should be located. Yeah, it looks a little bit more like a stunted pine you'll see on top of a mountain. or some of the stunted pines out west in the Rockies and the Sierra Nevadas. I guess I was completely wrong. Ran into a hiker and she showed me that there's a couple posts beside the trail and a little path that leads right to the oldest tree, and it is not what I expected. The trunk is thinner, but it looks like it's seen some fires. The bark is completely different than some of the other trees I've seen. And it's just like very gnarled up top. Not as impressive as some of the other trees here, but this is 470 years old. That's pretty damn old. Huh. About the same diameter as the other big ones I've encountered, 3.5 feet around there. Just seen better days. You can see how many of the limbs just look just completely twisted and beaten down. There it is from further back. Just very innocuous compared to some of these taller trees that surround it. This area is a great example of what's a lot more common around eastern North Carolina. These are much taller, skinnier longleaf pines, much younger. Most of them are probably 60 to 80 feet high, but the diameter of these trunks are a lot smaller, 2 to 3 feet. Eventually those tops are just going to break off in some sort of storm with some wind or some snow. And I guess they just keep growing a lot more stunted and start growing out instead of up. I believe I found the second oldest, finally, back near the start. The hiker I ran into said it looked more like a monster, and I remember seeing this one when I first started the loop. Kind of stood out on its own, like perfectly smooth, branches starting near the top, very big, and even the ones around it are pretty impressive too. That looks like a 4-foot trunk right there. So I forget if they had the age for this one on the map, but it's definitely over 400 years old. Yeah, this looks more impressive than the oldest one in terms of just sheer size. That's a big tree. Oh look, there's a little marker there. The second oldest one from a distance. You can see how impressive the main trunk looks compared to others around it. That is probably the widest trunk of all the trees I've seen. It's about 3:15 and I'm calling it a day. Spent about an hour, 15 minutes exploring this, doing a lot of backtracking, trying to find those trees. If you like longleaf pine tree porn, you probably love this video. Otherwise, you might have been bored to sleep. But this is a nice little state park unit right in the middle of the southern pines. Lots of people out and about getting some exercise. And I'm going to finish up by walking around this really nice manor that I think is part of this tract. This is where I parked, and looks really stately. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll hopefully check out another coastal state park in the next week.